For fans of the series, I would be wise not to pronounce this game incorrectly, as the game that we are talking about on this week's episode of Game Club is none other than Ys, Book 1 and 2, for the original system that it was on, the PC Engine, or, as most other people, at least in North America, would know it as, the TurboGrafx CD.
Ooh.
I'm your host, as always, Bonbo Lafty, and today I am joined by Bene.
Hello, everyone. I'm Bene, otherwise known as Ben.
Who he humbly suggested that we play this game for the week, as I was kind of in a scramble to think of, what game should we play? Because I've been riddled with playing Final Fantasy XIV nonstop. But
I'm in the same boat.
that's not what this show is about. This show is about Ys.
Easy lovin'.
Which, looking at it, look at it. It's pronounced Ys, but it's spelled Y-S.
Yeah, the first thing you come to mind when you see that, you're like, yes?
Yes. Why? When I was a child, and that the Super Nintendo game came out, I thought it was just wise. Because I couldn't think of it any other way.
Yeah, that's how it is.
This is how it is.
When you're a kid, goes either way.
I think I have to apologize in advance in case you might hear a band playing in the background. For some reason, on the street, there's a cover band and they're playing music.
They're celebrating the podcast, man.
They are celebrating the podcast, but the show must go on. So, let's get right into this. Okay, so the first thing that anybody who has played this game has come to realize that when it comes to action RPGs, how this game plays is like game making 101.
Oh, yeah. I see what you mean. Yeah.
From its core design, it is so incredibly simple. Like, as it is an action RPG, its fundamental mechanic is walking into things to attack them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's super simple. It's the most basic action RPG you can make. It's
simple, but at the same time, I feel like it's got a little bit of complexity to it, as like they have to program in there somehow that you can attack and you can get attacked just by pressing forward.
Yeah, it's just the grinding RPG in the most that's what I like to call it. But it's because it's so simple. Like at first, I was like just shocked at I was like, wait, I just run into people?
Yeah. I swear there was a moment where I knew the mechanic of running into bad guys already, but for some reason I thought I had to press a button on people to talk to them. But no, you walk forward to them just as much, to the point where I was doing that so many times in the starting town that I was doing my best to dodge everybody. Because there are so many people wandering around. You just end up talking
a lot
all over the place.
I think I was a little overwhelmed just by the amount of people that were in the first town, because I didn't really talk to everybody, because I was like, oh my gosh, another person that has something like, you can find dandelions in the grass field,
So ridiculous. So anyway, the game is about... Is he a wandering mercenary, or is he just some guy?
His name is Adel, and he is, I guess, just... It feels very, generic, he's a hero guy, it's he has really very little about himself.
Well, I've played, I haven't played that many Ys games, but I just kind of feel like every game starts out with him getting off a ship and going into this town that just suddenly needs his help.
Yeah, it's a very basic fantasy trope of the starting of a journey starts with that person getting off a boat. It's
almost as if I don't know if America will understand this reference, but it's almost as if he's the littlest hobo traveling from town to town, solving everybody's problems.
I don't get the reference either. Lost
the littlest hobo is this old Canadian TV show about a dog that would go all over the place, and apparently it just help people with their problems or solve crimes or some stuff. It was crazy.
All right.
Apparently you can still watch it like mornings on CTV2 or something like that, which is, I guess, a channel that Americans don't get. So I'm sorry, you'll have to download it or something. I don't know how it works.
Check it out.
But yeah. So he goes to this town, and there's this girl who's all like, "Oh, I know who you are. Come over here. I need to tell you something." And then you go into her house, and she's all like, "Well, I'm going to tell you more things, but you have to buy some equipment first."
I need you to come over here, but first buy some stuff. So at first, when you're going into the town, you're like, okay, I'm going to go buy all my equipment, and then you realize, oh, I don't have enough money to buy it all. So
then it introduces you to the fighting mechanic.
yeah, the field. You go out the field, and then you go out there, and the music starts, and you're like, yes, I love it. I love that field music. It's so triumphant.
It's really good. It's really good. That's really surprised with the quality of the music for some reason. Like, I felt that. Let me retrace my steps here. It's like, I know that it's an old game, but for something as old as 1989, it's surprisingly awesome.
Yeah. I mean, the music is, it's fantastic, and like I was researching, some people were saying like about it back then, but like they were always obviously praising the music, because like there's like very little things that actually did that, like that level of music back then. It's still like, it's impressive by this day, like it's still good music.
Yeah.
There are some 8-bit sounding tracks that are a little weird, I feel like, meshing with the more modern sounding CD music, but it was definitely good.
But you can definitely tell what is what, right? Because the crispness of the field music and the boss music and stuff like that, and then the second or two for you to wait until the track restarts again.
There's that definitely CD feel to it.
But yeah, you basically, that introduces you to the fighting mechanic of walking into things.
Nothing else. All of this.
So how long did it take for you to get used to that?
I probably got used to it. At first I had to actually figure out that I had to equip my weapons, because I was running around like just my fists and punching stuff. I was like, wait, I got these weapons, but how do I use them? I'm like, oh, equipment screen, put them on. Now I got it. So I equipped them. I'm like, okay, I got my sword. I'm wagging it as I run. And I started hitting things. I'm like, okay, I'm killing stuff. And like, it wasn't very long until I got addicted to it. I'm like, yes. You know what? The combat reminds me, even though this game comes out much later, but I'm pretty sure like Half Minute Hero is like a direct inspiration from this game. Like, they're inspired from that game, because it's pretty much the same concept. You run into a thing, you kill it. So if you know that game, you kind of know what Ys is a little bit.
It does have like this strange feeling of satisfaction. Like for me, it felt akin to pushing a piece into another piece, like on a chessboard. Like just like pushing it off the field is just like that imagery that I had in my head every time I would like walk into something.
Oh, okay. So I had the same image. I have a different imagery, but I did have something. It was like me like cleaning something. It's like, oh, I got to get this dirt out.
Oh yeah,
just scrubbing this dirt away. Yeah.
Push it out of the way.
But to answer your question about how fast I got into it, I had to first go to the options and switch it to fast, because that's how you play that game. I feel like you need to play it fast and like moving super quickly, because I felt like once I knew how to hit the enemy where I'm continuously hitting them as I move, it became a lot easier, because at first I was trying to like hit them and then back away, and then they would hit me in the back as I was running away. So you have to kind of like figure out what works best for those kind of encounters.
Yeah, I was actually the opposite with it. I mean, I did notice how slow it was at first, and then I switched it to fast. But then there was something about fast that I didn't quite like. Like, I feel like I was taking more hits than I was giving, so I had to move it back to normal, because I think maybe it was the controller that I was using, or me just getting ahead of myself all the time. But
I was using the analog stick.
To tone it down. Oh yeah.
Until I switched to the control pad, and I was like, this is much easier. Control pad, I feel like less accurate if I want like direct movements, but the 360 pad is kind of hard to use.
It definitely felt weird using the D-pad.
Yeah,
for sure. So actually, let's. I want to talk about this because you did express that we might be in the same spot. How far did you make it into the game?
Okay, so I think I got past the part you got stuck on, but I got into Darm's Tower, whatever. It's like I'm on like floor 13 or something.
Okay.
So are you stuck on the Bat Boss?
Yes, I am stuck on the vampire bat.
Oh my god, that boss is so ridiculous.
It's such a pain in the ass because I don't understand. Like, it's one of those boss fights where you have to like look at it and really understand it, because if you just run into it and try to fight it hitting the ground running, like there's no winning.
There's no win.
Because it's only up for like a second every time, but you have to do something with when like the giant thing turns into little bats. You have to kind of coax the bats into turning back into the giant physical form again, or else they're just going to continue to chase you around the map and kill you instantly.
So for people that don't know, basically there's about 20 of these bats, and they're tiny little bats, and your character, and there maybe like make up like 5 of them together could make the size of your character. And if just one of them touches you, you take a shit ton of damage. And add this together, and if you just like say you just like, oh, I need to get past these bats as they're running towards me, and you hit like 2 of them, there goes half your health, and you can't get that back in the middle of the boss. You're pretty much dead at that point. So you have to actively dodge them, and they basically swerve towards you, and they stop, and they kind of like spread out, and then they swerve to you again every couple seconds. And then occasionally, if they swerve to each other into a group tight enough, they turn back into their main form, and then you can attack them. Or attack the main dude. But the problem I had with that was whenever I tried to attack him, I'd take damage instead, and I wouldn't get any attacks on him, damage. And then I would die, like, instantly, because I guess I was on top of him or whatever. It was pure luck that I actually beat that. I had so much, like, head pounding, like, just getting through that fight. It's ridiculous because sometimes you actually attack him and you do damage and you don't take any damage. Sometimes you take damage and he doesn't get hit. Like, I've timed it perfectly. There's this I think it's a split second you have to actually hit him, and if you don't hit him that split second, then he basically hits you and you don't get any damage. Like, it's ridiculously it's either super timed or totally random, because it's the timing is ridiculous if there's timing.
Luck is definitely one of those things that you need to have on your side, because I did it so many times and I still couldn't even get him to half health, and I just had to stop. And it's crazy because I've seen videos of people on that boss fight like actually giving critical damage to that boss, like out of pure chance.
Yeah. Yep. I think I think that, honestly, in my opinion, that boss is bad. Like, they designed him. Like, it could, especially since the progression of that game, it starts off like pretty easy boss once you know how to do it. And the second boss is like kind of easy boss. You kind of, if you just go drive right into him, it's pretty easy. And then the third boss is like, holy shit. Like, I don't even know, like, and I gotten past that boss and I got to the future bosses, but like, even those bosses aren't as hard as this boss is. Like, the boss after this is actually pretty tough as well, but it's more like, it's tough in a more fair way. This tough is like in a really dumb, like, broken, like, lucky way, and that's not a fun boss.
It kind of makes you wonder if they just stuck with that gameplay mechanic because they didn't really fully understand how to make combat.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was back then. They wanted to make like a really simple action RPG. I mean, you could say that Zelda did. I mean, kind of had an action RPG kind of sense, but
yeah, but like there was things about
I came before this game
to compare the two. Like, there are things about Zelda that actually work that do not work with Ys.
Yeah.
Like, if you're buying in Ys, if you're buying armor and a shield,
yeah,
like, both of them should be able to function.
Right.
But you don't know if they do function because all you're doing is walking forward. At least with something like Zelda, if you buy a shield and you do not attack, the shield is always in front of you.
Exactly. I feel like that's the problem with these, I'd say. I mean, I really like the game, but it's you're unsure if you're actually taking damage or not sometimes. Like, it's like, I feel like, too, in the equipment, like, you've gotten to the point where you've gotten the silver equipment, right?
Yep.
Yeah, like, I feel like even though you've gotten this, like, really strong silver stuff, it's still, like, it doesn't feel like it does a lot of defense. Like, it just feels like a tiny bit, like it should feel like you're really getting strong and you can really take a lot of hits, but it doesn't feel that that big of a
Yeah.
jump.
It's also kind of absurd in the sense that you can get all that silver equipment before even buying like the next progression of armor and weapons.
Oh yeah, you can do it pretty quickly.
So then, like, what would be the point of going back and buying all these old things that you're not sure if you necessarily need? Well,
I recommend you go and buy the best stuff. Personally,
Yeah.
there's just a reason for it.
Oh,
You'll
yeah.
you'll thank me later, but there's a reason why you actually use it. But
I'm
yeah,
sure there is. When something is titled reflex armor, it kind of piques your curiosity as to why it would be called something like that.
Yeah, I guess, but like you'll definitely want to get that the second best for everything.
Oh yeah, I've been going back and collecting everything anyway.
I have enough gold I buy pretty much everything. I have enough gold to do so. So I was like, all right, I'm just gonna buy every single thing.
And speaking of simple gameplay design, it has the simplest idea of fetch quests ever implemented into a game.
Yeah, it's pretty simple.
Like, it doesn't tell you, like, you'll walk up to this villager or this person that has a problem. Like, they're missing something because a band of thieves ransacked the town and the village. And so that person's just like, well, I'll help you if you get this back for me. They don't, there's no evidence as to where this thing might be.
No,
or
they
how
don't.
you happen upon it.
You have no idea if it's even something you can solve right away. It's just like it could be like 3 dungeons away. You have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there's definitely been a couple of times where I would find something before I even asked that person, before I even talked to that person that needed something, and then, suddenly here it is. Okay, I'll help you.
Yeah.
It's like, that's good. That's great.
Yeah.
So in the first dungeon, that empty temple or whatever,
Right.
it also demonstrates like an early instance of voice acting as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you get a couple of those a little later past where you're at right now, but it definitely feels kind of sporadic how they use them. It's like, this person is kind of important to the story a little bit, so they have a voice.
Yeah.
And then some people don't. It's a little strange.
So kind of, I guess, since this was like a CD-based game back in the day, I wonder how much data was actually allowed on these TurboGrafx discs or something.
I tried. This might be just a tiny bit off topic, but I tried another game made by Falcom, the Nihon Falcom, which just made this game, called Dragon Slayer, The Legend of Heroes, and it had like a lot of voice acting. And it was also yeah.
Okay.
So, it was more like a traditional RPG. This is way different. But it had like a lot, and I was surprised this didn't have as much. So
maybe a game like this, they were just testing the waters with ease or something.
Yeah. So yeah, when you start the game, it's got all those old anime cutscenes there too. It's pretty.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man. It was nice. I like the intro to it. It feels like I said, it's kind of this old school kind of thing, but they didn't even do it back then very often, so it's kind of a nice treat to have.
Also, like, I guess one of the things that was really great, especially for a game back then, is the fact that you could save anywhere on the map at all times.
Mm-hmm. That's super useful.
Which is just perfect if you're stuck on a boss, that you can just save right in front of the door.
Yeah.
And die over and over and over again.
Yeah, the dungeons, honestly, they started out pretty hard because you couldn't heal. Like, once you entered a dungeon, you couldn't heal your health. And that kind of continued until you got the heal ring, which pretty much made, like, short dungeons pretty easy.
Yeah.
So basically what happens is, you're in the field, if you stand still, your health will recover all the way. But if you're in a dungeon, it won't. Until you get this item ring called the heal ring, which basically just recovers your health as you stand still in the dungeons, which is it's so useful because no more running out of dungeons to get health again. It's like, yeah,
you could just this guy practically killed me. I'll just stand here for
which
a while.
happens by the time you get that ring. That's what starts happening. It's like everyone starts one-shotting you almost.
I didn't really like the design of the dungeons in this game all that much because they're really they're confusing to get around for the most part. Not so much the first one, but when you go into the cave where all you have is like that circle, you definitely have this feeling of like, I don't want to explore, I just kind of like want to move around I just want to move alongside this wall because I know it's like the only wall that I can see. So
Exactly. And the thing is like, but then you think like, oh man, but there's all that treasure I probably need because it's super good.
And
That's a good thing.
And there was another reason why, especially in that cave too, why it was good that I put the speed back down to normal, because there was the fast enemy that was in there, like the stone-like thing. But then he's even slowed down even more when you get the time ring, which is even better.
What does the time ring do?
It slows things down. It slowed him down at least. So.
Oh, I never figured out what that thing did. I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, they don't really do a good job of explaining what anything is.
Yeah, which is, that's kind of how those older games are.
That's true. But
you can give a little bit of a pass, but it's still kind of annoying.
It does, but then like you have all these items in your inventory, and you don't even have to select them or anything. You just have them, and then somebody will say something about them, like, "Oh, I needed that," or
Thanks.
"Oh, you have this. Let me read it for you."
Thanks.
It's like, okay, yeah, you go ahead and read the Book of Ease because I apparently don't know how to read anything that I'm holding.
Yeah. Please tell me what this does. Yeah, I should probably use that timer ring. That probably would have been helpful at some point. But yeah, like you're saying, confusing like maze dungeons, it gets worse, man. The tower that I'm on, man, dude, it's like a rat in a maze.
How so? But like you said you're on the 13th floor, so is there like literally 13 floors of really long twists and turns, or is every room just kind of like short and up?
It's not like each floor is kind of like it's a room or two,
okay.
But it's like it's confusing because it's like literally like each room has like, oh, this room takes you to the 5th floor, and this passageway can take you to the 7th floor, but this one can take you down 2 floors. It's like, oh my gosh, which way do I want to go? I don't even know. Like you assume you want to go up, but when you go up, sometimes you get to a dead end. It's just wow.
Oh man, yeah. There's like I had to use a fac on the ruin because I didn't want to waste my time, and it was the morning before starting this podcast, right?
Right.
And just bad hints, like bad explanation, but that's okay because it was a dark room. You couldn't really explain your way out of a bull's ass or anything, but like.
Yeah.
But then it was like, okay, so to get to the boss, you go to Ruin 3. So when you're at Ruin 2, you just have to go like left, down, and right, and there you are. Like what?
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, I was lost in Ruin 2. Like I found all these items on the way, which is great, but I had no idea where I was going.
It's pretty much.
And like the floor to the boss was just right around the corner.
Yeah, I feel like I think the thing this game is it progresses really nicely in the beginning. It feels like really good, and then when it starts to get to about the middle or the end, I feel like it starts. I mean, I haven't finished it yet, but I'm pretty sure I'm getting close. It feels like it starts to get really hard, and like the difficulty like spikes really quickly, and like it's really kind of almost frustrating in a way. I mean, it's not like the dungeons are really, really bad. It's just they start to lose their like really fun like nature to them. When they start introducing some of the mechanics for them, like the darkness and some of the other stuff.
Well, my understanding is that the game is actually quite short, so I wouldn't be surprised if the difficulty of it suddenly spikes.
Yeah. But like I said with the bats, it's that. I mean, like that kind of spike is just.
Yeah, they really don't warn you about anything.
Yeah.
Which I mean, like. As weird as the problems of this game are, it is actually surprisingly fun because of its simple design is what makes it approachable and easy and interesting.
Yeah, it's extremely like it's really a good game. I feel like as much as I say this is bad, but like it's a really enjoyable game, and it's definitely like a classic when it comes to video games.
And it's something that I guess they've even recognized. For anybody that is curious about playing this game for themselves, you're in for a treat, because not only is the game available on such things like the Wii Virtual Console, the Nintendo DS, PlayStation Portable, and Steam, but they've also updated the graphics.
Yeah, oh man. Like I went to look at that, it's called Ys 1 and 2 Chronicles.
Mm-hmm.
and you can go get it on Steam for $15. But it's like, holy crap! What am I playing this for? No.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guaranteed that the gameplay probably hasn't changed all that much, but at least for the younger generation of people, it'll probably be a little bit more easier on the eyes.
A little more approachable, yeah.
Yeah.
But I might give that a shot actually to see what they changed and if I can beat that boss again or something.
You should have done that. We could have had the strangest Game Club podcast of me playing the old one and you playing the more modern one.
I feel like we've been too disconnected. I like the idea of being together and like in this weird journey.
That's true. But it would be really interesting to see what's different about it. I mean, like I know of all things that at least the layout of the area with the vampire bat fight is a little bit different.
Okay.
And I think graphically it's kind of grosser, though.
Is it really?
Well, just because they still implement like the darkness thing around you when you go into the boss fight.
Yeah.
That's just kind of adding insult to injury.
Wait, there's
already.
Darkness in the boss battle?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's not as dark as you would think, but it's
Okay.
still like it's just like dark everywhere in that tiny little area of light
Oh
around
my gosh, that is. Yeah, that's insult to injury. It's insult to death.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good thing the game kind of pops you up pretty quickly after you die, though. It's like, oh, game over, start, and then you're back in.
Yeah.
You know?
It's really good about that.
Yeah.
So that's like another key reason as to why you should probably save at any chance that you get, because you respawn at your last save point.
Yep.
That's one of the things that I learned early on when I was playing the game, and I made it pretty far, and then I died. And
I got killed by dogs.
And then suddenly I was in I was back at the first couple of seconds of the game.
You're like, oh no!
No! Why? Why would it do this to me? And then
That's terrible. Yeah.
Rule about games in general is save often, save always.
Yeah. The games that don't have autosave, which is pretty much the majority or all of old games, so take that moving forward into Game Club. Always save.
Always save. So how many, let's see, how many games are in the Ease series?
There's like 7, I think, 8.
6, 7, somewhere around there. Oh yeah, no, there is 7 of them. And one game is a strategy game? That would be interesting.
I have no idea, but I do plan on playing through the rest of these. The reason why, I guess I should say before, the reason why I wanted to play this game was I was trying to do research on Nihon Falcon because I thought it was kind of a cool idea. This is I haven't really told anybody else, but to maybe like do a documentary on like obscure like companies, whether it be whatever American or Japanese or European or whatever, and like kind of do like a history of them and like talk about them. Like I thought it'd be really interesting to do for like Nihon Falcon because it's like such a obscure Japanese company that had like such a large impact on JRPGs and just that kind of genre back then. And I wanted to kind of just play these games. I was like, you know what, I want to play. I want to try either Atlas or Nihon Falcon, and I was like, which game should I try? And it's Ys seemed like the most appealing because had that kind of like I was like something about action RPG. I'm like 1990, and it had like CD-ROM. I'm like, all right, this sounds pretty great. So I'm gonna see how it goes.
Sounds pretty great, and it is.
Yeah.
Ys is definitely a classic game by far that I think a lot of people should play. At least, like, you go back to what I said at the beginning of the podcast, like, it is definitely game making 101. Everything about it is so simple and easy to get into that, like, modern game makers should probably look at a series like this for some sort of fundamentals on design.
Yeah, I agree. If you want like the most basic, the roots of action RPG started, look no further than this.
Mm-hmm. And with that, I'd say that this is another successful end to another game club. I would like to thank Bene for joining me on this one.
Well, thank you.
I would like to
lots of fun.
I would like to thank Ys for being such a great game. And we will see you next week. Cannot tell you what game it's going to be. Cannot tell you who's going to join me because, I like surprises. Who doesn't?
Me too.
Surprises. Thank you very much.
See ya.